Now that they've all had an opportunity to introduce themselves, now we'll jump into the questions. And this is a 1 minute per response. We are going to start with Joe Reagan online first. For everyone, just their knowledge, I'm emphasizing that for Ryan, who's helping us here, with the Zoom stream, making sure that we can have things muted and unmuted properly. So, like Stephanie said, please give us some grace tonight with navigating all of this. We are going to start with Joe online, though. It's a really simple question. In your first 100 days, what issues and legislation will you prioritize?
Asking that question, and I think it is a great question. Right, we have a Congress that simply doesn't work. I mean, leave and said we don't care that we're abandoning our this. We don't care that we're leaving bills to fund critical things like Ukraine. We're not going to do anything. We're not going to do that to Washington to do. Republicans have put our so part of the new Democratic majority, and I would try and make government work an important role that the government has to play in fixing the thing that's been missing from the church for the longest is Doug Lamborn simply didn't show up. He didn't have the constituent services team in place to address the needs of the community. When folks came to him he didn't help them solve it. And that's the number one role of a representative serving in Congress. So I'd focus on that. In Washington, I'm working to lower costs.
Thank you, Joe. That's Tom.
I'm going to protect women's right to.
Just as a reminder, we heard the same thing that you all did, so we will get that addressed. And if the other candidates wouldn't mind a little bit of grace for that too, well, we'll get this particular thing addressed, and we'll go back in line to answer that question again. No issues with that, I'm assuming. Okay. We're going to move while we are addressing that. Then we are going to move on to John Edgar for the same question.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, in my first 100 days, the first thing I'll do is I'll affirm my belief that a woman's right to choose is a fundamental right. I'll vehemently oppose any effort to pass a national ban on abortion. I'll propose legislation that outlaws the prosecution of states who are going to pass laws that prohibit women from crossing state lines to get an abortion in places like Colorado. Number two, I'll address jobs and cost of living issues in this district. I've already put on my website a proposal called App Slashed that'll help people save money for a down payment on a starter home and pay down student debt. I'll also propose that we sunset corporate tax cuts at the same time the personal tax cuts sunset at the end of 2025. The Republicans put corporations over people. I'll put people over corporations. I'll also bring civility back to our democracy and protect our democracy from extremism. Thank you.
River, same question.
All right. Well, thank you for your question. As your representative in Congress, I will focus on key priorities for our community. Addressing climate change by promoting renewable energy, investing in clean infrastructure, and safeguarding our environment. Colorado Springs is not immune to the impacts of climate change. From increasing forest fires to water scarcity, I will work to support measures that protect our environment for future generations. I will also improve education by expanding access to affordable higher education and job training to ensure that every resident has the opportunities to succeed. I will improve our economy by forgiving student loan debt so people who are entering the workforce with 6 figures of debt will have the opportunity to consider housing an opportunity. Finally, I will be a strong advocate for veterans and military families in our community, ensuring that they have access to resources and supporting their needs, including quality health care, housing, and job opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Rolando.
So I don't know if everyone saw CNN. There was a report for a representative, Jimenez in Florida, and he was talking about how Republicans are basically leaving office because they're not getting anything done. And he was saying essentially what I was saying, which is that just banging your head against the wall isn't getting anything done. And so for me, it would be about ranked choice voting. That's what I want to get installed, not only here in Colorado, but across the country. That's how we move forward. That's how we start getting things done in South Carolina, in Idaho, in northern Colorado, in northern California, where northern Colorado wants to secede, northern California wants to secede. Ranked choice voting is the beginning of that moving forward and getting things done while I would be in my first 100 days. Thank you.
Thank you. And Adam, you're up.
All right. On day one, we will be electing Hakeem Jeffries as the new Speaker of the House. That's day one. On January 6th, a few days later, we're going to be reaffirming or confirming the re-election of Joe Biden as our president. Now, for the next 96 days, my effectiveness is going to rely on what happens the day after the election. I have big dreams to make this place have new transit systems and new mass transit. Luckily, I know somebody who knows the transportation secretary, so we're going to work on those networks and we're going to build those networks and talk to the committees that are going to help us happen. So when we get into Washington and we start getting to work, we know who to talk to and we know what committees that we're going to be on so that we can start pushing this big vision. Other things that I want to focus on while I'm there is, or in the first 100 days, is VA things, because with the VA, it's a great way to build gaps or build bridges between both sides of the aisle. I think everybody wants to take care of vets, and that's what I'll focus on in order to help build those bridges in the first 100 days.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay, we're going to go back to Joe and see if our technical difficulties have been resolved and allow him to answer this question. So in your first 100 days, what issues and legislation will you prioritize?
So I'm not sure how much of I know the folks online could hear me quite well. In general, I'll try and keep it as simple as possible. The first thing is setting up constituent services. Doug Lamborn never addressed the issues of people here in this community. And so making sure that we have a team both in Washington and here in Colorado Springs to address the issues of folks that are having challenges here that need congressional attention. Women's reproductive health is a huge issue. It goes well beyond just codifying Roe v. Wade into law, but looking at protecting all forms of women's reproductive health. Healthcare decisions should be made between a person and their doctor, and the federal law needs to reflect that. I'm also going to be looking at lowering costs. It's the number one issue that folks are dealing with, and it's the number one thing that we need to be working on at the congressional level. So those are the things that I would do in the first 100 days. Like many of the other folks said, making sure that the election is certified and moving forward to make government work for the people again.
All right, thank you. That worked out a little bit better. All right, so since Joe essentially went last, we're going to start with rebuttals, beginning with John Edgar. John, you have 30 seconds to...
Thank you. River, your plan to solve problems in your first 100 days is ambitious, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. But I would like to make note of your FEC form filing 1 had a problem on it, and you were notified about it, and you were given an opportunity to solve that problem, and you didn't solve that problem by the February 20th deadline. So I'd like to ask you, if you can't solve a small problem in the campaign, how are you going to solve this long list of problems in your first 100 days?
Do you mind explaining what this problem is that you're trying to address?
Hold on. So we're going to move on now, and River, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal.
Oh, shoot. Well, I don't even know what he's talking about.
I can give you the letter.
Let's do that later, because I don't know what you're talking about right now. Well, I'm going to keep this short and simple. If we can't save our planet, because it's on fire right now, nothing else really matters.
Rolando?
I'm rebutting Oh, only if I want to. Okay. Well, let me see. Wait, 30 seconds? Starting now, please. I think here we are. We're in a democratic arena, let's say. And I think we're all very pro-democratic values. And I think what we've got to do is we've got to focus on how are we going to make changes when we get into our position. And, I don't want to feel like I'm just the only one trying to be more democratic than the other people on the panel. I'm trying to forward some ideas on how we do
That's
that.
Tom.
And that's what I want to do.
Thanks. And Adam, you have 30 seconds for rebuttal if you'd like it.
Yeah, I'll take it. So one thing when I was talking about taking care of the VA or Veterans Affairs, another thing that I want to address is the Hyde Amendment that allowed one person to hold our military promotions hostage last year. It's unacceptable that something like that's allowed to happen, and we need to get rid of that so that people have access to the health care that they need, and people don't have to worry about any additional costs when you're trying to serve your nation. So that Hyde Amendment needs to be eliminated, and we shouldn't allow one person to sabotage us like that.
Thank you. All right, we are going to move on to the next question now. Go back. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna. Oh, that's what you were saying. You didn't say the question. All right, so I'm going to give it to Joe Regan for a 30-second rebuttal if you would like it.
Yes, thank you. 30 seconds starting now. When it comes to some of these issues that we're talking about, especially when we're talking about veterans issues, when we're talking about homelessness, these are issues that I've actually already handled at the national level. Having been a leader in the nonprofit community, I've handled a lot of these issues and implemented these solutions in communities across the country. So that's the sort of experience that I'm bringing day one walking into Congress. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Once again, thank you for the grace that you're showing all of us right now with these technical challenges. Now.